It's saying that the government cannot prosecute you, for your belief.
Or both.
Or persecute you, right? Both, yeah.
But that's what's being happened.
And that's a great point that I brought up. Like, it's definitely been bastardized up to this point, but I brought up a good point. Like, the government hasn't been the one censoring people, you know, when they were talking about woke and all those different things. Now, here lately, right, the government has played a role in trying to censor people. But originally, when the people were censoring people, let's be real, when the people were censoring people and canceling people based on the things that they were said, it was the people. I don't think it was the government. I could be wrong. There could have been cases where the government was playing a role in it, but I don't think so. All of them escape me right now. Y'all could call me out if I'm missing one where the government actually stepped in to cancel somebody. I know people decided to cancel people or boycott and things of that nature, but I don't know of the government stepping in until, you know, this recent What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Trey.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Back at it with another video.
Another one.
First and foremost, for everybody that's been coming back, everybody that's subscribing, really appreciate it. Make sure you like the video. If you learned something new or if you just appreciate the content, make sure you share it with your people. Keep the information going, keep the information flowing. We are going to react to the latest Joe Budden podcast. They go into a couple of different topics that I think they tackled in an interesting way compared to how everybody else has been talking about them. And we're gonna break some of them down. The first one that we're gonna get into is this Jaden Ivey situation where he goes on his whole little rant about his religious beliefs and LGBTQI, whatever. I think y'all added way too many letters and pluses and things into the LGBTQ. I think we should have just stopped at LGBTQ. I get it. That might be ignorant of me and not acknowledging folks, but I'm just saying how I feel. Anyway, real quick before we start the video, I don't have an issue with people having religious beliefs that kind of bleed into their view on homosexuality and stuff like that. But for one, as a public figure, you got to be careful with that stuff. But also, you have to be at least conscious of the fact that you can have your religious beliefs, but as we're going to see here in a few, I think there's a fine line between acknowledging your religious beliefs or just speaking your truth, your beliefs, and then going into hate speech toward another group of people, right? And that's kind of where I'll pocket it as we go into the rest of this video. But I think, yeah, it's a fine line, and I think he overstepped. But let's get into it.
Yo, can we together as a collective pray for Jaden Ivey? Jaden Ivey, formerly of the Pistons.
I'm pretty sure I said his name wrong. Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey.
Is now formerly of the Chicago Bulls. He went on a rant on his Insta Live about how it is not righteous for the NBA to have celebrate LGBTQA plus month. He went on about how Steph Curry is a fake Christian.
Damn.
He went on about a lot of things, and the internet started having a good hearty har over it because he was crashing out. But then as more came out, you know, you could see that his mental health probably wasn't in the correct space. You've heard some of that lingering from the Pistons. The Chicago Bulls waived him immediately. And there's some more clips out now where he's talking about how he never felt loved and just his upbringing, and it's real rough. So,
furs up.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah, I just saw the rant. That's why I thought you was joking at first. Like, what? Nah, with all of that.
And I only seen the rant too. They exposed me to a lot of other stuff, which once I seen the rant, he does come off that he's having other. He doesn't seem all there, right? He seems kind of off, and I've been around plenty of people that seem kind of off. So I have come to expect like not everybody is all there. Can we acknowledge that fact? Like, do y'all have some people? It might not be your best of friends, you know what I'm saying? It could be family, but that are kind of off. They're not all there, and you accept them nonetheless for who they are. You know how to kind of gauge where they're at and the things that they're saying. I don't know this dude, right? So when I started seeing him talking, I started to feel a certain kind of way, like, yeah, he's kind of off. And I just took it as that. I don't know if he's going through any mental health episodes.
Yeah, I get it now.
It's a tough situation. There's like multiple layers to this. The first layer was the kind of public reaction to him and people saying, he should be punished or disciplined for what he said. And I didn't like what he said at all. I thought it was awful. Mm-hmm. I don't like people being disciplined though for
speaking,
particularly if you're speaking from a place of religious conviction. I think he's wrong. Mm-hmm. I was horrified by it. I wasn't horrified. I was disgusted by it. But I think I never really liked that position. Now you could say, as a team and as a league, we have interests, and we don't want people with this position representing our interests. But that gets you in a very messy.
And to stop it real quick before he lands the plane, like ultimately, I feel like that's what they did, because the way he was talking, like I said, I don't know about the personal lives of the people on the Bulls, and I think he was with Detroit previously. He could be playing with other like people that are in the LGBTQ plus community. He could have people that are on those teams or people that are in that organization. Like the possibilities are endless, right? The team, the organization, the leadership, the management, like all these different groups of people could be represented at each one of these echelons, right? How do you think they feel about you talking crazy like this? And like I said, if he would have just stopped it at his religious belief, I think there would have been some grace offered. He kind of expanded, like when he started talking about Pride Month and the it's like it's not righteous to acknowledge pride. Like, I'm sorry, that I think that's when you start getting into a form of hatred and discrimination. Like, he didn't inherently say anything. I think he did. I think he did say some stuff that was kind of out of pocket. But I think that's where the problem ultimately lies. And I think that's why people would find issue with it and ultimately let him go, is because of where he took the conversation. I think if you say, hey, God, created man and woman, and in order to have children, there must be a man and a woman. He could have just held that line. he could have just stood on that line. He continued to talk. He continued to expand. Then once you continue to expand on some of this shit, then it's like, oh yeah, you just hate this specific group of people. You just don't like them.
That just gets into a very messy territory. And so I wasn't happy with that. I also didn't love the fact that...
What is the messy territory?
The messy territory is, if we say that he should be punished because he has a religious belief about something, and he's expressing it, and so you can't be in the league. I can see saying we're not going to put you in the commercials. I can see saying we're not going to, I can see individual teams saying this is against my values. But I don't want to normalize this idea that every time someone has a religious difference and they express it, that they're gone. Because then what happens if I have religious difference, that I may have religious difference, you may have religious difference or principle difference on something.
Yeah, but a few things on that, right?
And you're going too.
One,
and that's the dangerous territory.
One, today, right? And again, let me preface all this with, I ain't the religion expert. But today, where context matters, there's a lot of people in society using their religious beliefs to get off hate speech.
Yes,
For sure.
And there are plenty of companies that have specific language in the contract to where they can clip you at the drop of a dime if they hear hate speech.
But stay there. I see both sides. But
And that was my first point. I was getting to the
sorry.
second point. But go ahead, please.
but sometimes what'll happen is you can have a critique of somebody and they'll call it hate speech when it's really not hate speech. You get what I'm saying? And so you can get fired, and that's what we see right now with cancel culture. You could say something, and then if somebody is powerful enough, they'll say, oh, that's hate speech, and it may not be hate speech.
I get that.
And I think I can sympathize with the point that Ish is making, but I also feel like, and it was light work, right? Does it warrant letting you go from a team? Like, I don't know. I'm not that organization. I'm not the management, right? It was light work. When I say that he was bleeding over into that hate speech realm, he was showing that he found it offensive, really. Like, he really found it offensive that not only are we, in my opinion, like, this is how I interpret what he was saying, not only are we acknowledging homosexuality, he didn't say transgenderism, but I don't know how you talk about homosexuality and not have transgenderism in that mix, right? And that's a group of people that, so I kind of feel like they get roped into it, but let's keep it there. Like, those groups of people, if you say, God created man and woman, you the only way that you can have children is with a man and a woman, which, whatever, what I'm saying, on some basis, like, there's factual, there's sympathy in your belief in that, right? But when you start to expand on, it's like, you find offense in the fact that your organization, your league that you're a part of, acknowledges it. And not only it, but the month that is dedicated to highlighting it as a good thing, or, just to highlight them, the group of people. You have to immediately turn that over to, okay, you said the organization, but you really have an issue with this thing, right? So that just means everyone that falls into that category. So it's more than the organization, it's the entirety of it all. It's like all gay, lesbian, trans people across the world. And yes, you can have your religious views, but you are finding offense. Like, he wasn't like cursing people out, but he was definitely having issue with their existence. And I feel like that's when he veered into it. So just me personally, I feel like that's when he veered into it. Like, yeah, he's not calling for violence upon those groups of people, but he is having he is offended by the fact that not only do we accept them, that we would, highlight them in a positive way. And I think that's where it bleeds over. I think that's where the leap is made. I think if he would have just left it at the view, it would have stayed there. But I think it bleeds over once you start. You are upset that these things are happening.
I've been fired for that.
Applicable in this situation.
I've been fired for that.
Yeah, and so no, that's the fine line I think you're referring to.
Yeah.
Like, I could say, I'm just throwing one out here because we all, outside of Parks and Poe, we all black. So if somebody say something about a black person, like if a white person say something about a black person, it could be critiquing the person. It don't necessarily have to be, that person is a bigot or that person is a racist, and that's what we do today in society. So when you start playing with people's freedom of speech, now if you work for me and you representing my team, you got to go. I'm not mad at that.
Okay.
But
I'm
I'm not mad at
yeah.
that because you.
And I just like I said, y'all heard me lay out my whole argument. I think that based on my argument and where I found the issue with it lie, Ish's point and Mark's point don't really apply to it, and I think it's apples to oranges. But y'all let me know. Obviously everybody gets a say in it, and it's one of those nuanced things. Like I don't feel strongly enough about this one to be like, okay, like, die on the hill. I will argue my point of view, but yeah, I'm not dying on the hill on either front.
Sign on for the team, but I still, to Mark's point, don't believe that we should be policing people's
It just makes me a little uneasy.
freedom of speech.
But you're not policing anybody
not.
at work.
True. No,
At work.
I'm agreeing with you. If I come up here and say some shit,
Mark's beliefs are that, if you stand in something, then no matter where you are, you should stand in it, right?
Here's the trick. Yeah, but here's the tricky part. He wasn't at work, right? He's tweeting. That's where it gets. That's what I'm saying. It gets tricky.
But it's still not. Yeah.
But he was talking about the organization. Unless I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure he mentioned Pride Month, and he mentioned how the NBA supports Pride Month, acknowledges Pride Month. So he mentions not just his organization, but his organization as in the Bulls, but the NBA as a whole. So he is talking work. He's talking work. And that's one of the things when you mention your workplace in your personal posts on your personal page and stuff like that, then I think that's when your workplace can hold you accountable. If you are just speaking as an individual, your faith and things of that nature, then I think that's fine. Well, your employer is ultimately going to determine if that's fine. But he did mention his workplace.
Yeah.
No, and they have policies. I'm not.
I get you.
I'm not. Again, I oppose what he said, and I agree that people use hate speech often, or I agree that people often shroud religion, or hate speech and religion. It's also true that there are a lot of people. For example, there are people who believe that marriage should only be between men and women. Mm-hmm. And they believe that their religious faith, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, whatever, supports that position. Mm-hmm. That is a mainstream religious position.
What place does that have in the workplace?
Take the workplace out. If that person, I'm comparing apples to apples. I'm saying if someone tweets that, right, that I believe that marriage should only be between men and women as a matter of faith, should they get cut from a team?
Like I said, y'all let me know if I'm missing it. But I thought I watched all of these videos, and obviously, I think I'm gonna just put this out anyway. But I'm pretty sure when I watched the videos, he was highlighting Pride Month. He did open his preference with his religious beliefs and why he holds those beliefs. But he also mentioned Pride Month and how it's not an abomination. I'm trying to remember the terminology he used. I don't remember the specific terminology he used, but it not abomination, but not righteous, non-righteous, whatever. But those are that's the terminology he used, and it was specifically as it pertains to Pride Month, and it was specifically as it pertains to the NBA's acknowledgement of Pride Month. So again, this is all fresh, right? This is all new. Everybody's reacting to it. And I think that that's a fault of the argument that they're making. Like, he did insert his employer into the view.
That's what just happened. He tweeted some shit. If he's at an NBA press conference, I feel you. Maybe. If he's on the court, definitely. But if you can't tweet as a private citizen things that you believe,
but I think you can.
And they can.
And if I'm misquoting, I'll figure out a way to do like a follow up or response and say that, hey, I was wrong. He didn't say it that way.
Let you go.
It's character clauses like that. Like, yo, they have these things in contracts for a reason. Even when you are on your own out there in tweeting or live streaming or whatever the case may be, you can still say some that causes blowback to the team. But you are still a representative of this team,
I
even
agree
if
with
you're
all
not
of
on
that.
court.
All I'm saying is that there might be a little gray area when people start to say that it's a character issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, the character stuff applied before this ever happened.
And I'm with you on that. And again, if I were the owner of the team, I would have let him. I don't know if I'd let him go after that moment, but I can see how someone could get there. I just think that we start to enter a fuzzy area when we start saying, because again, as somebody who's been fired from jobs for things that the world at the time believed was wrong, and that they're coming around now,
and I think that's the main reason why Mark comes to this point. Mark said some things when the Israel-Gaza conflict first came out, I want to say it was, that got him fired from CNN. I know, yeah, he said something. He was standing on business, you know what I'm saying, as far as his views on the situation, and that's why CNN ultimately let him go. And he wasn't wrong. Like, come to find out, you know what I'm saying, now as everything's unfolded, he wasn't wrong. He was let go. But I understand why he would take this stance and feel this way about it, because he was canceled for taking a stance, an unpopular opinion, you know what I'm saying, an unpopular stance. So I get it. I understand where he's coming from. In this moment, I disagree.
Time they believe was wrong. Like, they said it was my character. You know what I mean?
But that was your character.
Mark, do you think you...
Hold up for a minute. That was your character.
No, but they were saying that I was demonstrating poor character and hate and hatefulness, specifically by virtue of me making a particular claim that they didn't agree with.
That's subjective.
And I'm just saying that can get into... It is subjective. And I'm just saying that can get into fuzzy areas. That
was off script from your employer.
Off script? What do you mean? Just to make sure I understand.
That wasn't their belief.
Oh, yes.
It wasn't in line with the job. It wasn't in line with what their expectations of you in that moment. Like, you were still on a clock.
Yeah, and again...
And you took that time to get on your own.
But here's why in my case, it's very tricky, because my job was to give political opinions. And I gave one. They just didn't agree with my political opinion. So, and again, that becomes very messy. Again, I disagree with Jaden Ivey. I agree with the criticism of him in that particular case, but I don't think someone's employment should hinge on whether I agree with them all the time. That's all. I'm just saying, because that just could get dangerous. That's all.
Do you think that you're mixing it up, or because what happened with the Kyrie situation? Do you feel like
it's another example?
Do you feel like the Kyrie
that's a better
situation?
example.
That's a great example.
But his was, we can see.
Yeah, because the Kyrie example, all he did was tweet something. So yeah, and again, like, he shouldn't have caught the flack that he, in hindsight, you know what I'm saying, he shouldn't have caught the flack that he did just for tweeting. Because it wasn't really, whatever.
We don't agree that he should have got punished at all just for retweeting what he retweeted, right? But this one, if you're saying something that, and you guys said it already, I can understand that. But we shouldn't compare the two.
But that
I see
was my
people
point.
doing that.
So if his belief as a Christian,
fine line. That's the really fine line. That now two people get to choose what is derogatory and what's not.
That's all I'm saying. It can just enter tricky territory.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Again, it's not about this particular case for me. It's more about the bigger
this
picture.
is cut and dry.
Yeah.
This is cut and dry. I'm just for objective dialogue. This is cut and dry. But to your point, I see where it could be a really fine line.
Are you to the...
And I agree with them on that sentiment. I agree it is a fine line. And it's crazy. I won't say funny. It's crazy. The fine line arguments and the nuance of it all kind of gets applied to LGBTQ plus and Israel type stuff more than anything else, right? That fine line, that nuance, right? When you're talking about things that come from that community, LGBTQ plus, I try to say it fast because it's just whatever. And then when you're talking anything Israel, you know, as far as like people trying to cancel you and come out against you, well, like those two different things, like are very nuanced. Like you can get canceled quick, depending on what you say on this end and what you say on that end. But a lot of other things, you know, racism, sexism, big, you know, not as much.
Do you believe that even if you feel that way, to shut the up, everything doesn't have to be said?
Yes.
That's what you...
For me, because I don't subscribe to speaking religion or politics really anywhere.
So does that
That's me?
Is it a thin line of freedom of expression, and like that's a thin line then, right? So
we have freedom. We have
ourselves.
freedom of speech. You don't have freedom of consequence.
That's true. Yeah, and people
confuse what freedom of speech actually means. Like when it was written in the Constitution.
That's true.
People thinks it means I could just go out and say whatever I want because I feel this way.
Yes.
And it's fine. That's not what it was for. It's saying that the government cannot prosecute you, for your belief.
Or both.
Or persecute you, right? Both, yeah.
But that's what's being happened.
And that's a great point that I brought up. Like, it's definitely been bastardized up to this point, but I brought up a good point. Like, the government hasn't been the one censoring people, you know, when they were talking about woke and all those different things. Now, lately, right, the government has played a role in trying to censor people. But originally, when the people were censoring people, well, let's be real, when the people were censoring people and canceling people based on the things that they were said, it was the people. I don't think it was the government. I could be wrong. There could have been cases where the government was playing a role in it, but I don't think so. All of them escape me right now. Y'all could call me out if I'm missing one where the government actually stepped in to cancel somebody. I know people decided to cancel people or boycott and things of that nature, but I don't know of the government stepping in until, you know, this recent the new administration.
That's happening.
The government ain't doing that. That's not the government. That's your job. Totally different.
No.
Your job is a private company that you work for, and they have their own beliefs. And if you go out and do something that is against the beliefs of the company, you have to suffer consequences.
I'm agreeing with you.
No, but there
what
are
we're seeing on a wide scale today is people that have government influence. You know what I'm saying? Forcing the government to punish people.
But also, there's a way. But also, companies can't violate those rights either. I mean, it's different. For example, like I have the right to be Jewish, right? A company can't fire me for being Jewish.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Even though they're not the government. So, and the spirit, and that's because
they can't discriminate.
Yeah, they can't discriminate, protect the class,
Absolutely.
but it's also a way of protecting my freedom of association and things like that. So, then you're right. It's not the same thing, but they do overlap in a lot of areas. And for me, I want to make sure that stuff just gets protected and preserved.
They will you can have the right to be Jewish in your example.
Right.
That doesn't also mean you get to now come in here and speak out against other things in here. You can have your beliefs and be who you are.
Right.
But once you start speaking out against others, if it's not in line with the company is going to take action.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, and again, I agree with this case. There are areas
I'm just
where
saying
it
in general.
becomes...
Also, even in this case, and I'll toss it right to you, Flip, after this, but even in this case, right, like sometimes you want to assume that teams have seen a little bit more, right? From the Pistons, when he left the Pistons, he's a lottery pick. He was hurt. They were waiting for him to get back. As soon as he got back, got him out of that. It looked weird. And then we started to hear the rumblings. Then he goes to Chicago, again, as a lottery pick, somebody that people said had a lot of talent. He doesn't play. It looked weird. The rumblings came about. So sometimes the team has seen a little more of you behind the scenes before the public saw your crazy ring. I don't know that they might not have been distancing themselves from him regardless. They got 19 guards on the team.
And you just gave me the reason to let you go without any pushback.
Yo, we worried about you. We've seen enough to be worried about you now, and let's take basketball off your plate.
I've heard, again, I don't have a direct source on this, but I have heard, like, secondary, that is exactly what's happening. That's what a lot of sports beat writers are saying. So I could understand that more. People are saying that he seems unhinged. What was a red flag for me, not that he has this belief. There's a lot of NBA players who have this belief. Just like there's a lot of sports writers and politicians and everybody who has
Americans, period.
Americans, period. They just don't say it out loud.
Right.
The fact that he chose to say it out loud, knowing the NBA brand and knowing the NBA product, said to me that either he's like, my religion trumps everything, or he's not in a good headspace right now. Now, I've heard some Christians, including some prominent Christians.
I think, you know, there's always the potential that he's not in a good headspace, but I think people know that there's a bag in this, man. There's a bag in being conservative. Like, check all the boxes of conservative, the conservative right, MAGA right, conservative right, whatever. There's a bag in it, whatever. And yeah, people are gonna hustle regardless. So yeah, I am not surprised when I see people jump out the window on some weird conservative type stuff. I assume it's a grift, right? I always assume it's a grift, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me. That's all I'll say.
Christians online say that they're offended at the idea that because they're expressing their faith, that means they must have a mental illness. Maybe he's just really standing on principle. I hear that side, but I don't agree with it. I think his behavior seems unusual, even for him. And that combined with what other sports writers are saying, who know a little bit more than we do, as Joe said, I think something's going on with him, and I'm actually concerned.
Mark, I have a question to take it off of that. Do you regret any of those things that you did, and do you stand on?
So for this one, we're going to stop it there. 'Cause obviously, this one's already been long. But I think it's an important conversation based on the situation and how it unfolded. They go back to back on this pod on some really important issues. So I think I'm going to have like 3 different reactions to the JBP and the conversations that they were having. But y'all let me know what your thoughts on are this specific one. I'm going to try and chop it down a little bit. I know it's going to be a little long. But yeah, let me know in the comments on where you land on the situation. If you learned something, appreciate the content, what have you, make sure you share it with your peoples. Keep the information going, keep the information flowing. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video. And until next time, I'll holla at you.
On my energy. I don't think you wanna be my enemy. I pop out, they go wild, so celebrity. Too busy winning, I forgot that I got frenemies.